Order. I ask Commissioner Stewart if you lead us in the invocation and the pledge, please.
Please stand and join us. Heavenly Father, we thank you again this evening, Lord, for allowing us to come in this capacity. Lord, I thank you that you've allowed us to live in the most beautiful place in the world, God, and we just ask that you help us tonight to grant us wisdom as we make the decisions that concern our county. Bless each one here tonight. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good crowd tonight. Thank you all for coming out. If you would like to speak, there's several opportunities. You can speak at either the first or the second citizens to be heard at the beginning or the end of the meeting, and also on each individual agenda item. Please fill out a separate speaker's card with Miss Patty here on each one. When you come up, give us your name and your address so the folks at home can hear as well. And if you happen to be here for item number 13, which is the Heron Point, if you haven't heard, that has been pulled off the agenda by the applicant, just in case you're here for that item. Have any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, let me ask you a question. I think probably a lot of these people are here on the Lake Ellen. Why don't we just move Lake Ellen to the top of our list tonight, and when they're finished, they may wish to go home?
So, let's see. So, we'd have to do our citizens to be heard. We have to do our consent. I mean, we could. We're only moving it up one item. If
Yeah.
we do
Okay.
that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Any difference?
Yeah. And the other one should be pretty
No.
fast, but
That's
it's a good idea, but it wouldn't move very far.
I thought we had, Sarah Thomas is not here, I'm assuming. Well then,
Scratch
never
that.
mind.
Okay. I will be pulling item number 8 and number 9 on the consent agenda for discussion. Any other changes to the agenda?
Motion to approve is amended.
Do we have a second? Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Patty, any citizens to be heard? All right, let's see, we'll start with Mr. Jonathan Leedy. Hopefully I got that right. Come on down, sir.
Price is right.
Give us your name and address, please.
Name's Jonathan Leedy. It's 1961 Harriet Drive, 32303. I'm here obviously about the Lake Ellen issue. It's I grew up around that lake. My grandmother owned a trailer right in that neighborhood. It's one of our local waterways, one of the things that my family, my parents and I like to go water skiing in that area, and it's something that's important enough to Florida, keeping the navigable waterways open, that we have a...
Cats.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, we're commenting on the feral cats in the audience there.
That we have a chapter in our Florida statutes specifically set aside for keeping waterways open and accessible to the public for both commercial and recreational activities. And I do know that there was, in 2012, a proposal to spend about $400,000 to revamp the ramp at Lake Ellen and also add a kayak access. So I'm just here to voice my support in keeping that area open, because it is one of the times that my family and I come down and spend money here in Wakulla.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Chris Russell.
He's going to wait until you talk about it in discussion.
Okay. You mean at the
He wants to talk about number 8.
at the agenda item itself?
Number 8.
Oh, number 8?
He wants to talk about number 8.
Okay. Very good. All right, that ends our citizens to be heard. We'll go into awards and presentation. I do not see Miss Sabrina Williams. Tanya, are you?
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go, right up front. Come on down. She's going to give us a presentation regarding statistics and health risk factors for Wakulla teenagers.
Good evening, County Commissioners and guests. We were asked by Sabrina Williams with the Refuge House to present tonight, but unfortunately Sabrina has fallen ill and will not be here. We want to thank you for this opportunity. I am Donna Clark, and this is Morgan Parker. We are both health educators from the Department of Health here in Wakulla County. In addition, I'm really excited to announce that Ms. Morgan Parker is one of our own. She's a graduate from Wakulla High School of 2010, as well as a graduate from Florida State University with her bachelor's in family and child sciences, as well as psychology. Our presentation tonight is to review the ways that we can assist our youth and families in order to provide them optimal health for their future, and so that they can avoid risks and temptations they are faced with today.
Thank you, Ms. Donna. Thank you, Commissioners, for having us here today. Excited to be here as growing up in Wakulla County and graduating from the school district to be talking to you guys about health. Our sexual risk avoidance program is just a small piece of the grand scale picture of optimal health. So starting off with talking about optimal health, and we define it as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely just the absence of disease. One of our government's, us being a government entity, responsibilities is to protect the health of the American public, and we do this by providing the knowledge and the information and tools so that they can use it to make healthy choices in their daily lives. So, if we look at any at-risk behavior, we look at the typical public health model. You start at risk avoidance, then you give them the information and those tools so that they can use it for the best health outcomes. And then we look at risk reduction. When the onset of the risky behavior happens, we give them the tools to prevent any of the consequences that could happen. Ultimately, we're urged back up to the risk avoidance approach. Our prevention method we call going upstream. So imagine you're standing next to a river and you see someone floating down. They're drowning. You jump in, you pull them to shore, but then you see another and another. So you go upstream and see that there's a hole in the bridge. So you fix the hole and people stop falling through. So our goal is to go upstream. When it comes to health, prevention means going upstream and fixing the problem at its source. Our Healthy Choices method uses historical prevention and first-level prevention, so we're taking action prior to the onset of the behavior. Other methods, like secondary and third levels of prevention, occur after the risks have already taken place for the management and to reduce and manage the consequences that occur. We attain our goal through education. A lot of you are familiar with some of the topics like pregnancy, STD, emotional consequences. We talk about contraceptions, the benefits of being in a committed monogamous relationship. But we also talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships, dating violence, sexual assault. We talk to youth about self-efficacy, setting boundaries, refusal skills, decision-making. We have character building lessons, talk to them about goal setting, get them thinking about the future. We also talk about appropriate and inappropriate use of media. We try to get parent and child engagement also through our lessons. So we attain our goal through education. Our program is medically accurate, science-based, age-appropriate, and again, we try to get that parent-child interaction, open the lines of communication, make it not so awkward for them. So why do we matter? In understanding youth and the new cultural message that's given to them through social media, we see that teen sex is now being promoted as normal, as an expectation, and that everyone is doing it. And if you're familiar with the social norms theory, it'll tell you that if people think harmful behavior is typical, they're more likely to engage in that behavior. In reality, nearly 60% of teens think that sex is not suitable for high school. So we just need to debunk the myth. We need to look at the facts and debunk it. If we look at health trends in the U.S. over the past 20 years, there's been a 28% increase in high school students actually choosing to wait to have sex. Condom use has been decreasing, though, since 2003. While condom use increases as age of sexual initiation increases, condom use of youth who do not delay sexual initiation decrease as they get older. So for example, you have two 18-year-olds. One is 18 and just started having sex. One is 18 but has been having sex since they were 15. Who's going to use the condom? The 18-year-old who just started having sex and delayed it. So here on a local level are some of our statistics for sexual activity. Our first one is birth to teenage mothers per 1,000. You can see our county number and then our county rate per 1,000 compared to state level. We're much higher than the state, especially in 18 to 19 age range. We have percent of repeat births. We're actually doing really well here. You see we're actually lower than the state in percentage comparisons. And then you see bacterial STDs down at the bottom at a county average of 38. Our rate's pretty comparable to state, so I would say we're doing good, but we're not doing better, so there's always room for improvement there. So we know the importance of sexual delay because it's associated with these many long lists of things. I want to focus on decreased general physical health, including depression, and also the more frequent engagement in other risk behaviors such as smoking, drinking, and drugs. So here we have substance abuse statistics. The first one, percent of students who use alcohol in the past 30 days. Middle and high school age, both much higher than state, if you compare the two. Then we have percent of students who report binge drinking, which is even more high risk and affects health. Almost double in state comparison for both high school and middle school. And then at the bottom, percent of students who use marijuana in the past 30 days, again, much higher than the state level. Then we have the mental health, social, emotional development. For non-fatal hospitalizations for self-inflicted injuries, that number for the 12 to 18-year-old age range, 329 versus the state 92. That's so high. Suicide deaths, 24 to 4.8. The U means it's unstable, like it happened at they took the survey at not a very stable time. There might have been a lot of absentees then, like maybe they were testing. Stable or not, 24 versus the 4 is still a big difference. So our final thoughts, we just want youth to achieve that optimal health. We want them to understand that it's not just washing your hands or that you're sick because you have a head cold, that it's the well-being physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Donna. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I have a written script here, but I can't read it. Most of you that have seen me present before, I'm very passionate about this message. These are just statistics that Sabrina asked us to come forth and bring to your attention. There's a huge generation gap between what's going on with youth today compared to what was going on with youth back when I was a teenager. There are programs that are offering services here. The only problem is with our teenagers, once they do tempt a risky behavior and they get into a situation that they need help, they are taken all the way to Tallahassee because that's where the services are offered. Sabrina's passion as well as ours is to hope, engage in other organizations as well as Wakulla County entities to bring a safe place here. It's going to take some time, but we wanted to bring it to your attention because right now they go up to CCYS, Capital City Youth Services. They go up to Big Bend. There's nothing here in this county. And as you can see by the statistics, there's a lot going on, and it would mean so much if we could keep those teens here in this county. Transportation, as you guys are aware of, is hard. So for families to go up and visit their loved ones while they're up there, it's difficult. So this is just one presentation of hopefully more in the future that we are working towards a goal to kind of have that safe place for teens that may be suffering from problems at home or somewhere to go to keep them safe. And thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Why do you think that Wakulla is so high?
That's a good question. First and foremost is informing and educating. Our program does not go in and say sex is bad. We go in and give them information. We give them tools. We tell them set boundaries. Have you discuss with your friend when you go to a party, what do you want to be able to do? Do you want to have a drink or do you not? Do you want to have that supportive group? That's a good question. If we had that answer, then we'd be solving the problem. But right now, I think key is providing them information, education. And the problem we have is that we are to work with parents, but we don't get parents to any of our presentations through the schools, whether it's time or whether the letter is getting home to the students' parents or guardians saying, hey, there's a 1-hour presentation about this program. We give away free literature to parents on how to talk to your youth, and we also have tried to do follow-up workshops, especially today with social media. We presented for 1 hour at the school with Tanya English on Thursday and about social media and the risks that these kids are being faced with. And they immediately asked, so how do we help educate our parents? And I said, let us do it. We will provide the education, but we need help getting parents, guardians, and not only that, our community, grandparents, aunts and uncles. We are all involved with the betterment of our youth and our community. So,
Do you have this in a format that we could share on social media and get it out to the parents?
yes, sir. I would have to check with our public information officer just to see the process of that through the Department of Health.
Because I think a lot of these numbers are just very surprising.
They are surprising, and so some people, I saw you guys kind of laughing and things like that, or smiling. I mean, it is shocking, and a lot of people do look at it that way. We shared similar numbers 3 years ago at a town hall meeting in August, and we haven't had the opportunity again until today to do this. So I will check and we'll follow up with you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right. So I asked to pull item number 8. From the very beginning, when I first got elected, I've been opposed to impact fees, and so I understand the reasons, but I'm going to stay consistent on this, and I pulled it just so I can vote against this item tonight.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Wait, I've got something to say on that too.
Well, we've got one citizen,
Okay.
so
All right,
we'll
go
get a
ahead.
chance for discussion.
Second.
We got a motion, we got a
Chuck
second,
already seconded.
and Mr. Chris Russell.
Get Chuck.
Good evening, Commissioners. Commissioner Thomas, thanks for pulling this off. I love y'all when you campaign, and you've been out there, you've said you were against impact fees, so I can't really see why we would pay, and I love Bruce, what he does for us at EDC. It's nothing against Bruce or the planning council or committee. But I can't see spending taxpayer dollars, $3,500 for this study. First of all, it's pretty high, in my opinion. Second of all, unless you're set to vote to put in impact fees, there's no sense doing this. Maybe there's a time we look at this, but there's no sense spending $3,500 on that. We have been very fortunate that our 1-cent sales tax money is coming in very well, and it's going, as you know, to Parks and Rec is one of them, and you know I champion that to go there. So I'm not against Parks and Rec, I'm not against the library, I'm just against using taxpayer dollars where we don't have to use them. I think the legislature, Representative Beshear, Senator Mumford has been very good to us this year on the fire department, the fire station we're getting. Let's take some of those funds, put it over to Parks and Recs, make some library improvements. I know this. I know every time I put my boat in the water, I'm paying the fee if it's a public boat ramp here in Wakulla County, on top of my license that I give to the state that goes to buy these ramps. So therefore, if we're going to look at real equity in this, maybe we need to start looking at charging for library cards, because I know they're charging the parents at the rec part. So this issue's a little contentious. I'm not against the library, I'm not against Parks and Recs, but I am against us spending $3,500 right now, unless there's 3 of you that are committed to vote to increase our taxes by impact fees.
Well, fixing to find out.
There we are. So thank you, and thank you for
Very
reporting.
good.
Y'all take care.
All right. We have a motion and a second. You want to start discussion?
I totally agree with Chris. I told the administrator today that any and all impact fees I'm against, because it's a backward tax. Any way you look at it, the citizens are going to pay for that at some time. You just can't avoid that, because the more things that we add to your bill, your house, remember, stands good for every decision we make. If you own a piece of property, that's the checkbook that we have available, and I'm not going to spend your money. And I agree with Commissioner Thomas that the idea of spending $3,500 for a study, if we can just stop that tonight, we will stop it tonight. I will vote to stop the study. I'm not for studies so much. We spend so much money doing studies and so forth, and then we come back and pay no attention to them. So if we can stop that tonight, I'd be in favor of doing that. But I'm against any and all impact fees. As Chris said, we have our economy is coming back. Our tax rolls are increasing. But just because they increase doesn't mean we have to increase our spending. We should save that money. Really, we should treat the county money like we treat our own money, hopefully.
Let me clarify what this is, since there's a lot of new people here. It's being misconstrued a little bit. This is a proposal in order to charge an impact fee on new construction only, not on existing homes. This proposal is to bring back a part of the impact fee and only apply it to Parks and Rec, to go to our kids, and to library. That's it. Just those two. I think it'd probably end up being $100 a house or something for new homes only, not for tax bills. And this, in order to justify this, you gotta have the study. I'm the one that brought this up. Somebody wants to get mad, y'all get mad at me. But I think the economy we got rid of impact fees when the economy was down. Economy's coming back. The housing market is starting to rebound. I don't mind putting some of the developers' money, instead of in their pocket, put it back into our services for our kids in the library. So my motion stands.
We have a motion, and did you second it?
Yes.
Yeah. Got a motion, second?
And you know, what you have to remember is the cost of community service. Our current taxes pay for the current services. It doesn't pay for future services. And when new residents come in, they're putting more stress on our current services. And the only way we can pay for that is have some way to fund expansion of our rec parks and our library.
And I guess I'll defend my position in case anyone hasn't heard it before. I'm just fundamentally opposed to impact fees. And the reason for that is I'm also in the mortgage business. I see people, their taxes. I look at taxes all day long. I see what they're paying, and I see that the folks that are coming into town or have already lived here and buying a new house are typically paying more in property taxes than the folks that have lived in the house for 20 years. We've got some protections with Save Our Homes and the new portability. We're also, as properties increase, we all enjoy a 3% cap that, your taxes cannot go up more than 3% in a year. And we all appreciate holding our taxes low, but what that does is that compresses taxes and the share that people are paying for the folks that have been here a long time, and the new folks that are building a new house or buying a new house or moving into the community are paying more than their fair share, in my opinion. I don't see any way to make that fair. If it's, and I'm okay. If it passes, it passes. This is just a fundamental thing for me that I cannot support that and I can't get behind it.
Heather, can you tell us again, knows what that money can be spent for specifically?
Sure. An impact fee is a one-time charge on new construction to pay for capital costs that are related to additional capacity that's needed to serve the new growth.
Playground equipment, for example?
Sure. And basically, impact fees are to put the cost of needed capital expansions, whether it's new park space, new playgrounds, new ball fields, new books, new library space, on new growth rather than having your existing taxpayers pay for that.
And I don't disagree with Ralph, your philosophy, Jerry, yours, or Chris, yours. So if nothing else you guys take away, we don't agree, but at least we're civil to each other.
That's right. Not the end of the world.
Can't agree on everything.
Right. Further discussion? Hearing none, a call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Fails 2-3. All right. Next item I pulled as well, number 9. I don't have a problem with this, but I need to recuse myself from the vote on this. This is a SHIP down payment assistance application. My wife, as well as I, are in the mortgage business, and she is the loan officer that is assisting the citizen with this transaction, so I will not be voting on this
Motion to
item.
approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. That ends our consent agenda. We have no public hearings tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm about to skip right over general business. We'll start out with item number 11, and if I can make a comment, one of the folks that have put their name in the running, Mr. Andrew Riddle, and he is here somewhere, raises his hand there. He has asked at the beginning of the meeting to be not considered under the accountant banker position, but to be considered in the citizen at large category, and I guess that's where he originally wanted to be considered. So that's the one position that we had 2 applicants for, but now we'll have 2 in the citizen at large, and I'll ask the county attorney and staff any problem with switching that at this point. Okay. Do we have a motion on that?
Well, let's talk a little bit about, because now we have 2 choices for the citizen at large, right? Don't we need to decide that?
Yes. That's the only one that we have more than one applicant.
Chuck?
Well, Stephen Baird was much more qualified on paper than Mr. Riddle for the accountant position, but the citizen at large position, I didn't compare those 2, so that makes it much more difficult. I know Andrew, so that's one thing, and I don't know Felicia, so that's I can't make a recommendation on that.
And Mr. Riddle did point out the same point about Mr. Baird being more qualified for that position. And so,
Right.
All right, I'll pull the trigger. I'll Mr. Riddle as a citizen at large and accept all the other ones.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
The only, it's nothing against Felicia Thomas, the other person. I know Mr. Riddle, so.
Very good. All right, we'll go to item number 12. Anyone here to talk about that tonight? All right.
You mean to get it kicked off?
Yes, sir.
This agenda item requests board direction relating to closing of the Lake Ellen boat ramp. Most recently, it has been brought to staff's attention that the boat ramp located on Lake Ellen Drive, for which was constructed by FWC, may be located on private property and not the county's property. The current ramp is in need of major repairs. However, the county is uncertain of its authority to perform the needed repairs on the ramp and the location. In addition, it is unknown if Lake Ellen is a public or private lake. So therefore, at this point in time, we're seeking board direction as to how to move forward.
I'll kick it off with a motion, Ralph, if you'd let me.
Let's do it.
You have to indulge me a little bit because it's going to take a little while.
Okay.
Give it background. Heather, the state built the boat ramp, correct? Not the county.
That's my understanding back
Now,
in
they
the
were
60s.
they were supposed to have built it at the end of the road, right?
That is the location that is on the plat.
But for whatever reason, while they were there, they said, let's put it over here because it's a little bit easier, right?
I don't know why they put it there.
For whatever
They did.
reason, they built it where it's at today. And I've done quite a bit of studying on this. It's my opinion, it is a private lake. It doesn't fall as a sovereign water of the United States. It hasn't been delineated as such. It wasn't on the original statehood map, right, Chuck, that it had to be on. So it's not a jurisdictional water of the state. It's not like the ocean or or a river, Ocklawaha River, that if you get to it, you have full rights to it. So the boat ramp they built on private property. It doesn't matter if the man's owned it 10 days or 10 years. It was built on private property. So as far as the existing boat ramp, I'm going to make a motion on that. But let me go on a little further. I did some more research, and in 1959, the Florida Supreme Court determined, even if it is a private lake, and I'm going to read basically a summary. It was a Duval versus Thomas case in 1959. As a result, owners of separate portions of the bed of a non-navigable natural lake, which Lake Ellen is, have co-equal rights to the use, including boating, bathing, and fishing of the entire lake. So in other words, if you own a little piece on Lake Ellen and it goes into the water, if you can get to the lake without trespassing, you can go anywhere you want to on that lake. Right, Chuck?
That's right.
Okay, you can go fish anywhere, you can ride your boat anywhere. Nobody can go put a fence up and say you can't go here and you can't go there. So the question now becomes, there is a platted easement / right-of-way that goes into the water. Okay, the question, and I Chuck, I've caught in your habit of saying okay too much. I need to stop that.
Okay.
But the question, Chuck, remember I told you?
Okay.
Question is, and this is for Heather to resolve, is can we use that platted road as access to the lake?
You forgot to mention that is owned by the county, that platted.
Well, but she explained some things to me I didn't quite realize, like, for example, the county can't sell it, the county can't give it away. If they abandon it, it goes saying, I think it's fine, but we just need to clarify that. Now, I also think we're being put in a position we really shouldn't be in. We didn't build that boat ramp. It's not on county property. We really haven't maintained it much over the years. FWC walked away from it in 2000, remember? They didn't give the county the boat ramp and say, we're giving this boat ramp to you. All they had was an easement for the right-of-way, okay? They built the ramp in the wrong place. If they'd have built the ramp at the end of the road, we wouldn't be here today. They didn't. They built it on somebody else's property. So them releasing the easement means nothing. That doesn't mean they gave us the boat ramp and it's now yours. This just says, we don't know what else to do, so whatever claim we had, we're giving it back to you. Now, if they can somehow prove that they gave the county that slab of concrete, which they can't, because they didn't, and it wasn't their property to give us anyway. So, here's what I'm going to suggest, and this is when I'm going to make it in the form of a motion. At least people will know what to comment, whether they like it or whether they don't. We write a letter to FWC and saying that we had a request from the citizens that they remove their boat ramp from the private property of that person. That's it. It's not our boat ramp to close or open or do anything with. Write a letter to the state, FWC, you guys built this boat ramp, the guy wants it gone, come down here and get it. It's fully within that person's right to put a fence across. It's his property. Now, along with that motion is, let's go get it clarified and get a legal opinion that we can in fact use the existing right-of-way. Let's make a new access to the lake at the end of the road. Now, it's going to be impossible to turn a boat trailer around there. It'll probably have to be some sort of hand launch, but that's all we got. We don't own any more land other than 50 feet.
Long back, about 500 feet of back.
That's all we got. It's 50 feet wide. That's it. There is no other property. That boat ramp is on private property. So, that's the two piers of my motion.
Let's don't give one away before we get the other one.
We're not it's not ours to give away.
I know, but let's not close one before we...
We're asking FWC, it's they built it. It's not a, Wakulla County citizens did not pay for that ramp. In fact, it was on the FWC's website. It used to have a sign, Chuck, you remember, out at 98 saying, this is a FWC boat ramp at Lake Ellen. We're being made to look like bad guys. It's like us voting on Otter Lake ramp and the refuge.
I'm with you on, if we can get the votes, let's commit to building the best ramp we can, given the legal space that we have.
I agree. And the legal constrictions, as long as it all passes much.
I think we can skip the first part of your motion, that we don't own that boat ramp. Nope. Even though there was an understanding that we did, I don't know that we even need to deal with that or deal with FWC.
That was my initial thought, Ralph, too, was just do nothing about it, because we don't need to do anything, but Heather had suggested we at least say something about it and ask them.
And the reason being is we don't have any documentation from FWC about whether they, this is a long time ago, about, whether there was, for example, a grant agreement with FWC where they agreed to build it and we agreed to own it. We don't have any of that documentation.
So it may exist somewhere.
Exactly.
They would need to prove it exists, though, Ralph, if we write them a letter.
Sending them a letter may
to be
prompt
safe, I think that would
If
abundance of caution.
If they can produce a receipt where we paid for that concrete slab, then we need to figure out something else. But they can't, because it's not there.
I don't think it's going to be there, but...
One of the things we did do, and you still need to do that, but before we created this agenda item, was we did verify with FWC that they had released their...
They released the
easement. They released their easement, and that we had no further... There was nothing binding the county. And
but that's not, the easement's not the same place.
That's
right,
boat exactly. I'm just telling you, that part of it,
released something they weren't even
using. They did not mention anything about a grant or any of that stuff, but it's you're right.
And by the way,
you mentioned nothing about
nobody from the county even signed that release. Somebody in Tallahassee signed it, says, we don't want this easement anymore. We weren't even asked. Here. Now, we don't want they didn't give us anything, because it's the citizens' property, which is the right-of-way. The county granted them an easement in the 60s. They just gave up that easement. So they didn't give us the boat ramp and say, it's yours. So the letter, I think, if they can produce a piece of paper that says, here, you said you'd maintain it for 1,000 years, then we got a problem. But I don't think it's there. And again, we have 50 feet of property that goes out to the lake. The citizens have access to the lake. If they can get on that lake, our job is to try to make that as easy as possible with what we have to work with. Because, you know, I've been to Lake Ellen, I don't know how many times, water skiing and swimming and fishing and whatever, so certainly don't want to stop access to it. But, you know, people may ask, well, why is this coming up now? Well, it's coming up now because it's been brought up.
Right.
I mean, you can't just ignore it once it's brought up.
Yeah, and that's a good message for the public, that I don't know that any of the 5 of us wanted to pick this fight, and we certainly
Absolutely not.
didn't have any desire, but we have to deal with it. It's a legal problem. It's a legal issue that we're forced to deal with. And I heard you, the second part of your motion was to build a ramp and legal access.
No. The second part of my motion was to have Heather verify
Right.
that, given the plat language, if it's legally allowable, then we'll move forward with making a new boat launch area, whatever it may be. I seriously doubt it's going to be a concrete boat ramp, but it'll be somebody could get a john boat or something on the river, on the lake to go fishing. So that's the direction, is look towards that.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I can second that.
We have a motion and a second. Guys ready to go?
I'm a lake owner, landowner on the lake, and so whatever decision we make will affect my property value, so I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Oh,
Yeah, you get it easy tonight.
I get it easy on this one.
I own a lot in Lake Ellen Estates. Can I recuse myself too?
I don't know, it might be. But I would say I'm not in favor of closing access to the lake. I just don't think we should do that.
Do you agree with the statements I made about the boat ramp being on private property?
Oh, well, all that's true. I mean, the question is how much money we're going to spend on putting that boat ramp at the end. And I'm
Okay.
concerned, it's only a recreation site for 3 boats. Okay, you get 3 boats on there, water skiing, they're done. Okay, and so if we're going to spend considerable money.
Now, are you talking because of parking?
Because parking and safety on the lake when you're skiing.
Right.
You get 3 boats. That's about all you can handle skiing at one time on the
But you
lake.
could have someone fishing off in the corner.
You could have somebody
Yeah.
fishing off in the corner, those
Yeah.
kind of things. But I'm just,
Yeah.
how many big boats you can actually get on there.
Right.
But if you weren't recusing yourself, you would support this?
I would support this.
Okay.
Very good. Go to the citizens. We'll start out with Mr. Allen Reese.
We got something to talk about now.
Alan Reese, 294 Emerald Acres Drive. Well, I've learned a lot just listening to you, because I didn't know all the issues around this. I don't know if are there any, I'll just ask an open question, you don't have to answer, I'll just ask it maybe in the research and all, but is there any rights that pass on when someone has been given easement, even across private property, and it's existed for 50 years or more, and they've used it, and the property owner's allowing them to use it, and then there's some issues with closing that when it's been allowed to be used for that long?
Answer that, Mr. Chairman, if I could, because that's I know a lot of people have that question. For prescriptive easement, basically, like you have for a dirt road, for example, doesn't the statute say you have to, A, build it, and then B, maintain it? Is that correct, Heather?
For,
A road
talking
or...
about for the, well, the road's already there. There's no...
No, forget about that. I'm talking about right of maintenance or,
If the facts that we think we know, as far as the state building the boat ramp and everything, are accurate, then if any entity had a claim for some sort of an adverse possession, it would
Adverse
probably be the state.
That's the difference, Alan.
There's
We
about,
didn't build the ramp. They built the ramp. So if we had built it and we had maintained it for 50 years, maybe we'd have some claim about adverse possession, but...
there's 5 or 6 things on adverse possession. It's got to be active, visible, distinct, for a statutory period of time, and that ramp meets all of those.
Well, I
Again,
think it would also
not to
come into play
confuse the
the
issue.
fact that there is legal access. If that was the only legal access, then I think that would come into play, that we cannot stop the only legal access. I've seen forest roads where people use a state forest road or or National Forest Road to get to their house. But if they've got another legal access, you can close that road off and force those people to clear the trees to exercise their easement instead of using the existing roadway.
But
So-
my point was, which is overrides all of this, is the county didn't build the ramp. So there can't be an adverse possession cause if we didn't build it in the first place. The state built it.
And we can look
That's-
at it. I think it
that
would be
not be part
difficult.
of it.
Depends on what we find from the state, though, if we get anything.
Very good.
Sorry.
Back to you.
Okay, that's clear.
Clear as mud.
Well, it's a factual determination, so until we know all the facts, you
Yeah.
can't make that.
I would, just like you're talking about easements, you wouldn't want to, if I've got to clear a new easement, you don't want to close the existing easement to the person's house until they get the other easement cleared and
I
can
wanna
access
landlock
it.
'em, yeah.
So you wouldn't, if that ends up being the case legally, you wouldn't want to close this ramp before you've got another ramp at the end of the road that could be used to access the,
Again, it's not our ramp to close, though.
Right.
then what are you
Not
voting
to close
on?
the ramp. We're not
I
voting
mean,
to close
all
the
you're
ramp.
voting on then is send a letter to
Well,
the
WC.
Game and Fish Commission.
we've determined, I think without controversy, that the ramp's not on county property. So if the property owner put a fence up tomorrow, I don't know that that's a county issue. I think it's a civil issue, and we're gonna still work out what we're gonna do about our legal easement that we do have and whether or not we can put a ramp there.
That was another question. Has there been a survey to actually determine the location?
Yes.
Okay.
And
So
it
I
appears-
would-
appears like that's in agreement that that ramp is not on county property
Yeah.
and not in a county easement.
Okay. I'm like a lot of other people. I use it, have used it for many, many years, and I would hate to lose that opportunity for recreation here in the county and a lot of other people that do use it. So I'd like to see
Well, my
some
s-
access made available.
From my standpoint, I'll defend your right to use that lake forever.
Okay, appreciate that.
That's where I learned to ski. I grew up on that lake.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Ray Gastetic.
Hello, gentlemen. I'd just like to say thank you, and you all do a fine job. I say we need to have access to that, but like you were saying, you either got to back 500 feet down, and then there won't be no parking once you get your boat down there. And I think we should just leave it open for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joe Avera.
Y'all doing?
Good.
Welcome, sir.
Name's Joe Vera. I live actually at the lake, on Lake Ellen. I prepared something here that now that Mr. Merrick kind of set a direction, I might have to rethink. My opinion, looking at it from where I live, which is, like I say, right there at the ramp and right there on the lake, is that, you know, providing access to the lake is one issue. Providing governance over what happens on the lake is an entirely different thing. And I truly believe that if the county is not prepared to actually govern the area that they're making public, that they need to reconsider, you know, exactly what it is they want to do there. There's a lot of factors that are affected and a lot of liabilities. I mean, for one thing, just like you said, parking. How many vehicles can park on that road before it actually is no longer a fire access route to the lake or to the houses that are down there? You know, how do you work that out? I mean, if you look at the drawing that's provided in the agenda, you can see that, I mean, there's no trailers there on those cars. You put trailers on those cars and you got a walk path. You know, but even then, it's sort of restricted. I mean, if you're going to follow the rules, I mean, you know, you got a 50-foot easement. How much space do you have to keep for emergency services? Well, that's one issue. Another issue would be, you know, the ordinances. You have ordinances there. So how do you enforce the ordinances when there's really no county presence? Are you depending on the lake property owners to make a phone call and be on that side of things? Or, you know,
I mean, so I think a part of the whole process of planning what to do there has to be a decision as to how much resources are going to be, you know, put into it from the county. I think everybody likes the idea, you know, that things have been a certain way for a certain amount of time, but there's 30,000 people in this county now. They all cannot come to Lake Ellen. And if you make it public, that's what you're saying. You know? Just like Mr. Hess said, 3 boats, and that's about it. They, you know. And I see dangerous things all the time there. I've seen dangerous things. We've lived there since 2009, my wife and I. That was one of the first things that struck me. You got a boat ramp here, and then you have children swimming over here. The boats come and go. They got to go right through the children, and you know, there's liabilities there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. He did bring up a good point. There is an ordinance that would need to be changed if this happens, that forbids really doing anything in that.
Actually, the ordinance allows access. It just...
Well, it says you can't swim, you can't put a boat in, you
yeah,
can't...
we need to redo the ordinance to make sure.
And Jerry, you're going to get a big kick out of this. Guess who drew that drawing back in '98? I did.
Are those cars to scale?
Oh, yeah. Drew it at Edwin Brown's office.
All right. Mr. Stephen Fultz.
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Fultz, 35 Monocoop Circle. First, I'd like to thank you all very much for giving me an opportunity to speak here. This is not pleasant for anybody here, I'm sure. I do want to thank you for your duty. I know it's very difficult to deal with these issues when you're going to make people happy or unhappy in issues. A couple of things I'd like to point out is that we've already discussed this. Some 55 years ago, mistake was made by government. And this issue, I've got a file here, this issue's been before this board 7, 8 times. Newspaper article after newspaper article after newspaper article. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. This is just a bad thing that happened, and government created it. And to be honest with you, gentlemen, I expect government to fix it. Okay? It's not right to put private property owners under the duress that we're put under right now. There is only a 50-foot easement there. It's only a 140-acre lake. The ecological load on that lake, just with the property owners, I would suggest, is higher than what the lake can bear. Now you're going to allow the public to continue. There are beer cans in the bottom of that lake everywhere. It's just, it's frustrating for me to see this. And I see it. I go down there and pick up the trash. Joe goes down and picks up the trash. It's everywhere. It's only a 50-foot easement. I'm sorry, it is just not the appropriate place for public access. I wish it were, but it's not. And this problem is going to continue to come before the board. Please read the documents from the previous owners. The predictions were made by Dempsey Andrews over and over and over again. This is going to come back before the board. Sure enough, it comes back before the board. I believe Commissioner Stewart was involved with this previously. And there's only one solution that I can come up with in my small mind. I've worked hard trying to think out what would eventually bring closure to this. And all I ask for this board is please bring closure to this issue. Don't kick it down the road and try to fix it, because it is what it is. And that's just an inappropriate place for public access. The lake is too small. The lake is private, clearly. Okay? You can say, well, the state didn't say that. The state, when they don't claim it as public, it's private, because they don't want to admit the liability that they have to the lake. That's the reason they say, well, we're not going to say that it's public and we're not going to say it's private, because they know they don't want to have any liability. The plat clearly shows in 1963, clearly, the easement stops before the water. Okay? I've got articles that talk about the erosion and the sandbagging. Maybe Commissioner Stewart remembers that. There was sandbagging that was done because of the erosion that now created the easement into the water. What the law says is, where was that easement at the time it was platted? It did not go into the water, folks. And if we all want to get in a big, long legal battle, I'm afraid that's where we're heading here.
Well,
Because
I think Commissioner Merritt's motion will determine that. If we do a survey and we do a title opinion on that, I think we'll be able to answer that question.
Well, it's been done. My title company has already said file a claim. I think you may have already seen that document. I mean, they've already done the title searches. They've already said you have a claim here. And then they're going to come back on Wakulla County, I believe, to get their money back once they pay me my claim. So, and it's terrible. I hate this, but it is what it is. Nobody would want to have people coming onto their property and camping.
Can you bring it in? I'll give you latitude. You're the applicant. I know you got a lot to say, but can you bring it in?
I will try to. People are constantly using my property. I have been very, very patient wanting the county to handle this. I feel comfortable. I could put a fence right down there and created a big firestorm. I didn't want to do that, okay? I said, let's work through the proper channels. Let's let government do their thing. And the government will figure out that, yes, this has been ongoing and we need to do something, as unpopular as it may be. We need to do it and fix this thing forever. And I see the direction. I appreciate you, Randy. Guys, there was only one solution here. I mean, how would you like it if county said, well, we're going to put this concrete slab and allow access onto your front yard, and people just came and started camping on your front yard? I mean, it is what it is. The only way this problem is going to get solved, I'm sorry, close the ramp and abandon the road. That's it. Unless it's going to keep coming back and keep coming back unless you do that. And
all right.
It's frustrating for me, but that's
Thank you.
my position. And I do apologize to everybody. I know you've had it for a long time, and I understand all of that, but I didn't create the problem. It was government that created the problem, and government should fix the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hopefully FWC will make that right, what they did.
Next, Miss Sandra Cooper
State.
Foltz.
I know. Damn sure ain't our fault. We didn't do it. Take heat for it.
Hi, I'm Sandra Cooper Foltz. I'm at 31 Monocoop Circle in Panacea. And I'd just like to say that I totally agree that this boat ramp should be closed and the road should be closed to keep access, because hundreds of people use that as swimming, as laying on the beach. Whose beach is it? It's not county beach. It's not in the 50-foot easement that you have. They're over in somebody's property. And that's not right. That's just not right. The only way you could do that, you'll have to have a great, big, huge fence on the 50-yard thing all the way into the water. That is a horrible thing to have to do. So please consider closing the road and taking out the boat ramp. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I'm going to need some help with this one. Bill 15... Salisbury Drive. All right. Give us your name, sir, if you don't mind.
My name's Bill Frank. I live on Stanley Drive, 15 Stanley Drive.
Yes, sir.
I've been living on Lake Ellen for 40-something years. My wife was born and raised around Lake Ellen. Their family fished at Lake Ellen. And now we've got people coming in and trying to close the road going to the boat ramp. I agree with them. They know for a long time that the boat ramp was put in the wrong place, okay? But there's no reason for us to close this landing. I know the man bought the land down there. He wants to keep people off that property. But he knew that land was there when he bought it. And now we're causing to create a problem. And our county commissioners are going to have to get their heads together. And our sheriff's department's going to have to get their heads together, because the riffraff that's going down there on Friday and Saturday night tearing up the place raising Cain. They can't get no rest down there. I can understand that, because I live on the main drag myself, and it's hard for me to get rest sometimes. But this is my idea of it. Y'all need to come to a conclusion what we're going to do with the thing. But I don't want the boat ramp closed, because I fish in it all, right now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. David Hogan.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
My name is David Hogan. I live at 55 Merwin Drive. I'd hate to see this get closed down. I mean, that's one of the things that helped me buy the house that I bought down there was so that my kids and their friends would have a place to go, especially during the summertime. You'd rather see them going out and playing on the lake, swimming, boating, having the chance to ski, stuff like that, versus going out partying, drinking, all that kind of stuff. So my opinion is to at least have it open until a new one's done, and then, or even get the kayak access out there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Tony Marion? Marion? My apologies.
If he hacked up Frank as a last name, I can't imagine what he'd do with a hard one.
My name's Tony Marino. I live at 68 White Drive in Meadart. I've fished Lake Ellen for 40 years. I raised my family on Lake Ellen. I've watched real fast, as they call it, come and go. I've never seen a boater or a fisherman that threw cans into the lake, as this gentleman said a while ago. If I see a can on the bottom, I pick it up. My kids swim in Lake Ellen. My grandkids swim in Lake Ellen. Lake Ellen's been a public lake as long as I've been in Wakulla County and before. I'm totally against the closure of the boat ramp. I'm with Mr. Frank. Me and him fished this lake together for many years. There's not a man in Wakulla County can say that they've ever seen us throw trash or anything or say anything harmful to a human being down there. So this dog's not hunting. I don't know about the boat ramp, who built the boat ramp. I know the property was deeded to the county from St. John's for that boat ramp. I do know that much. And I know that there's a lot of controversy over who owns what and what's owned and who owned it. But I remember when there wasn't many houses on Lake Ellen. This trailer that this gentleman bought that he's talking about, that he owns the property to the boat ramp. I don't know the extent to where his land ends, but I know that boat ramp's been at Lake Ellen since I moved to Wakulla County way back. And I mean, it's been a many since I was young. And I'm just telling y'all straight up that right's right and wrong's wrong. Lake Ellen has been a public lake as long as I've been in this county. There's no need to change it now for one individual or who owns what on the lake. They don't own the lake. Who owns the lake? The state of Florida owns the lake, my friends. The state of Florida owns any body of water in the state of Florida. I quit commercial fishing because of people telling me what I could use and how I could use it. And who I could use it with. And everything you do in the salt water is illegal. Don't take our fresh water as that thing.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it. Next, Mr. Gerald Fielder.
Pastor Fielder.
Fielder.
You're not doing very good with names there.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the work that you do, and sitting here listening to everyone. I have a piece of property on the south of Lake Ellen down there that I bought some time ago. And after that, I also bought a piece of property on the north end of the lake there. And I was surprising at that time, when I bought the piece on the north end of the lake, that I was told, as I was told on the south end of the lake, that I have rights to the property by being landowners. And then, of course, the question comes up, was it in your deed, this, that, and the other? And I have my deed and everything. It's not on there, but I was wondering, I'm getting older, and I don't hardly remember what happened yesterday. But I do know when I bought those properties that I was told that I had access and rights to the lake by being a landowner. And so I did some research and looking. I'm sure there's a whole lot of things we can do, but Lake Ellen Land Development. Lake Ellen Land Development. They have an advertisement which says, beautiful wooded lot would make a nice home site for someone who likes to fish or swim only a block from beautiful Lake Ellen. Known for the big bass, public water, available, charming small subdivision close to Crawfordville, local shops, and Gulf fishing. Public water, that was what they advertised. Lake Ellen Land Development, and I'm sure that was years ago on it. And so then I'm not a lawyer, and I probably won't be one. I'll stay a retired pastor. But I went on, and computer world's great, got a lot of stuff there. It says lakefront property in Florida. If you buy lakefront property, you'll pay a premium for the privilege of living on one of Florida's many beautiful lakes. In addition to having a nice scenic view and the right to use the lake for recreation, you will be subject to the rights of others to use the same lake. What do you really get when you buy lakefront property? Question asked. Your deed may include property extending into the lake, but you may not own the lake bed. When Florida became a state in 1845, it became the owner of all land under the ordinary high water line of lakes which were navigable. That is, it's acceptable for use in commerce by customer, modern, and trade and travel. This has posed a problem for many lakefront owners. First, it's almost impossible to determine where the ordinary high water line...
Are you near the end, Mr. Fielder? Can you bring it in for us?
The buzzer went off.
Yes.
I get 3 minutes. Have I gone over?
Yes, sir, you have. Well,
I'm
give
sorry.
you a little latitude if you could bring it on.
You sound like a good preacher, though.
That's all right. They holler at church about this. But anyway, as I was learning about this, the boundaries and the water line and that, your property may extend out into the water, and I know these folks' deeds do that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they own that property. What that really all means is that you have a lakefront property.
Thank you, sir.
And that's it. And let me say this if I can. I would love to see the boat ramp continue to open, access to the lake, because I have property there. And if it doesn't, my property value is going down south. Okay? I would also like to say this. The folks here, Bill, I know these folks there at the boat ramp, as far as I know, good folks. Consider there be a sign put up that at dark, get out of there. However you want to post it. Dusk to dawn. Get out of there. Also, from Bill's opening into his place, no parking from there on toward the lake. Park back that way. I drive an 18-wheeler. If I've got to back my boat from Pam Drive, 5 Pam Drive, where my property's at, I can back it in there. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Felder is a great minister, but his wife is even better.
Thank you, sir. Mr. John Smith. I read that one.
Good evening, Chairman of the Board. I live at 100 Merwin Drive. I've been there 27 years. Never thought I'd be in front of the board for this. It's amazing to me how the county's just changed. It's gotten big. Too big sometimes. I look at it when I first arrived here, how small it was. People shook hands, people waved. And now I'm up here looking at this. I bought my property one reason because I was by the lake and I could get access to the lake. I own 2 properties there. My girlfriend owns a property there. We love the lake. We may only use it 3 times a year, but it's there. My grandchildren used it last year. This is what it's all about. It's family. If you have to do some laws there, if you have to set up sunset and go away, that's fine. That's good. Help this guy be happy. That's what we're here for, to be happy, to all live together. But closing the lake is going to make a lot of people sad in Lake Ellen, and our property value is going to go down the tubes. We're going to lose $20,000, $30,000 a house down there. And that's the God's honest truth. That's one of my points that we're going to lose, is it's going to affect our real estate, because access to the lake means you can advertise that. Because we're getting a hold of Blue Water Realty because of this, because we want the real estate people to know if this happens, it's going to affect everybody around there. And I've been down there many a times. I mean, yes, there's problems at the lake, but there's also a lot of good people that go down there and have fun with their kids. And, you know, there's not a lot, not in Wakulla County, there's not a lot to do for the kids. And that's the truth. So when you take the lake away, what are they going to do? And they come down there with towels wrapped around, going to the lake and happy during the summer. I see them. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's 3 or 4 kids going down the lake to have some fun. And this is why I'm here, because I care for Wakulla County, and I care for Lake Ellen. I'm here for everybody. That I do believe that the lake can stay open, and I believe we can come to an agreement. And if the state can help us, whoever can help us, that boat ramp's been there since 1963. I read up and did my homework on it. I mean, I know Merwin, I know J.D., I know them guys. J.D. offered to sell me the land next to the boat ramp in the 90s. And I said, no, I don't want it. You know, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying keeping the lake open is a bad thing at all. I think yes, I agree it needs to be controlled a little bit better, maybe because the kids that come down there. But I don't agree with partying until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning at the lake either, for anybody that lives there. It's not fair to the residents. But anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Susie Jones?
Next, Miss Martha Edwards.
Hello.
Hi there.
I want to thank y'all. I know you have a tough job.
You mind pulling that down so the folks at home can hear you?
Okay.
Thank you.
I bought 10 lots in Lake Ellen, not on the water, a block and a half from the water, and we use the lake. I have a canoe. I have a canoe. I have a little sailboat. And not only will my property value be going down, but I won't have access to public water. And the lake has been public, and it's been public for a long time. It's sad to me that one person's selfishness is causing all of this, and that same person's property that they just purchased, knowing that boat ramp was there, was filled in illegally. Wet marshlands, where the trailer is, that he just bought. It was illegally filled wetlands. Now he's saying he owns our boat ramp. He shouldn't even have, that trailer shouldn't even be there. And I'm sure y'all know about that, because there was a certain particular person fined heavily for that. So there is some question about that property. You know, so maybe we'll end up in court, who knows. But I certainly hope that y'all will not shut down access to that lake. There's 4 generations of people right now who have been using that lake. Them, their kids, and now their grandkids. So please, whatever we have to do to keep access, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Last speaker is Mr. Greg Deal.
Y'all remember Greg?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Former Commissioner Greg Deal.
For Chairman Greg did.
I was asked to come here tonight. It's been 22 years since I attended a meeting. It's not that I didn't have anything to say, it's just I didn't want to be those people that come all the time. So I think once every 22 years is about right. I was asked to come here about 1993. The board voted 5-0. Anybody who's followed that board or knew anything about them knows we didn't vote 5-0 on anything. We voted 5-0 to basically close that ramp. We would have physically closed it had the state not stepped in and threatened our existing grants until they had time to do more research. It took them about 7 years to do that research, and then they abandoned it. What we found in 1993, I spoke to probably a dozen former commissioners. Without exception, everyone told me shouldn't be there. It was a mistake. If you got the nerve and the backbone to close it, because that's the right thing to do. Everyone I spoke to said that. Our research showed the original plat only runs to the water's edge. I've got a copy of it if you'd like to see it, still from my records. The road right away beyond that point, if you're measuring the footage, is underwater and has been underwater for well over 20 years. There's been no maintenance. Therefore, it was determined and told us that it had been abandoned. So the original plat shows to the water's edge, not into the water. Anything into the water is abandoned. That's what we were told at the time. There are many private lakes in the state of Florida. The sovereignty question has been litigated many times since 1959. We were provided with the case law back then. The portion, the ramp is not and never was on the right-of-way. It's not that the owners haven't contested that. They've contested it time and time again. It's just that nothing's ever been done about it. At the time we did it, we closed everything off, if you'll read the ordinance, and it's been repealed since then, except launching a boat, because we knew of the dangers and we didn't want the liability, and we certainly didn't want to place that liability on the property owners on both sides. This property cannot meet even your minimum development requirements. If anybody brings a plat before you and wants to develop a piece of property and you've approved anything on that piece of property, and that's what we were told, good luck. Because if you won't follow your own land development codes for public use, how can you enforce it to someone else? This is all stuff we were told when we were getting ready to vote on this. The property is deed restricted against public restrooms, so that's out of the question. We were also informed that there's no way we can enforce the rules or regulations to protect the adjoining property rights. The entire shoreline, all the river or lake bottom is private land. The law clearly supports the fact that it was a private lake. We know there was no way to maintain water quality tests or anything else. We didn't have the resources to do it, and I don't believe we have it now. In the past 50 years, there's been over 55 commissioners try to fix this problem. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Gentlemen, you're not going to get a different result there. There's been 3 types of barricades I know of, dozens of signs, over 20 workshops, hundreds of calls to EMS and the sheriff, multiple deaths and injuries at a facility that never should have been there.
Can you bring
I'm going to wrap it up. J.D. Turner, God rest his soul, was a great commissioner. His name's on this plat. He told me, Commissioner, at your first meeting, you're going to make 50% of the people in this county awful mad with you. By the 3rd meeting, you're going to have made everybody in this county mad with you about something. I think I did it in 2. Your decision tonight is not easy. I respect the job you've got to do. I've sat in your chairs. I understand it. Do the right thing, commissioners. That is clear. The law is clear. That place needs to be closed. We didn't have the nerve to do it. I hope you do.
Thank you, sir. That
Motion
is
stands.
That
That's
is
the way I made it.
Our last speaker.
Now, in clear disclosure, I own a couple lots on Montgomery Drive, I think, or Stanley Drive. This doesn't directly affect them, I don't think, but I don't know if we...
Stanley Drive is.
Huh? It's one of the properties in Lake Ellen Estates. Huh?
Isn't it on your deed that says you have lake access?
I don't know.
It's on mine.
In Lake Ellen Estates?
Yeah. It's right there, somewhere in here. I don't mind voting on it, but I need an opinion. If I need to recuse myself, then it's up to these 3 guys.
I would probably not vote on it, Randy.
Okay. Now, I made the motion. What does that mean?
Can you make a motion?
Somebody else can make the motion
Gotta
and...
start over. Hang on, sir.
Chuck, do you own lakefront property?
I own lakefront property and parcels off the lake, so it's...
Well, if I was voting, I'd vote for my own motion, but I guess I can't.
So the public knows, in order for these guys to recuse themselves, they have to determine that they stand to have a gain or loss as a result of this decision, whichever way the decision goes. So we need to deal with this right now. We can speak during citizens to be heard afterwards.
I'm sorry, but they talk about this law said that.
Yes, sir. We're not gonna get back into all that right now. So it's your decision if you're recusing yourself based on attorney's advice.
I don't want somebody to come back and sue me, so Heather, what's your advice?
Well, I mean, obviously, the Commission on Ethics is the only one who can give you binding advice, but it would seem to me that there is the possibility that you would have direct financial gain or loss as a result of this item, since you own lots that are within the unit that has the alleged platted access to the lake, so...
There's only two, so I ain't like I'm a millionaire or anything, but...
Well, the state doesn't look at it from if there's any gain or loss.
Nickel gain or loss.
Well, if you're recusing yourself, then you can't make the motion.
That's right. Ralph knows there are a lot of people that like to make complaints, so...
You withdraw on your motion?
I have to. I can't vote, I guess.
Okay. So we have...
Well, I'd appreciate if somebody else would pick it up, but...
We currently have no motion on the table. Do we have a motion?
Well, here's where I'm at, and I've lived here all my life, and used that lake more than I can remember, and I remember having to take this up before, and the same turnout of folks, and like Mr. Deal said, you know, whether you have the backbone to close it or whatever, but I don't want to close the boat ramp. I'm going to make a motion that's going to be much like Randy's, and that is that we I want to clarify tonight for the public and for us. I want to ask one more time from Heather and David, as we know it right now, the way y'all briefed me today, is that the existing ramp that's there is absolutely positively on Mr. Fultz's property.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I understand, folks, that we have no other recourse but to abandon that boat ramp. Okay? What should have been done 50 years ago was that when the FWC screwed it up was to make them have fixed it then and put it in the correct place. We didn't. That's no pun intended, that's water under the bridge, and we got to fix it now. And I don't want to see us put a primitive boat ramp there, because what we're going to have is people down there with four-wheel drives backing down into the lake and just tearing it up. And that's exactly what will happen. They'll back big boats in there and won't be able to get them out, and they'll tear it up. So what I'd like to see us do, so my motion is that we rightfully abandon that ramp, however that is. If I don't think we're going to get any help from FWC, because they have already washed their hands of it. I think that's a waste of time. Is that we're going to have to make it right for that property owner. Either, you know, negotiate with him if he wants to keep that ramp for his own personal use, then let it stay, or we can take it out. Whatever's the right thing to do there. And further is to then build a new ramp at the end of the road that will make it still accessible to the public. I don't think I certainly don't want to abandon that lake. Too many people use it now. I want to still use it, so that's my motion.
I'd like for you to amend that we don't abandon the first one until we've built the second one.
Not ours to abandon.
We don't have that choice, Jerry. I asked that question, and I wish we could do that, but we can't. You know, Mr. Fultz...
Just put a fence up tomorrow.
Well, then, if we don't have an interest in it, we don't have to abandon it.
That's right.
So we just...
The purpose of asking a letter was to force FWC's hand.
But Jerry's right. You make a good point. Is if we do nothing, then Mr. Fultz can build a fence there tomorrow, though, Jerry. I understand that. And then it's abandoned anyway.
Well, I mean, we can't stop him regardless of how we vote on that tonight.
Right.
If we have no interest in that property, then we can't abandon anything, because we don't have anything to abandon.
Bingo.
Now, then basically your motion says that we will take the county access that we do have there and build a new ramp.
build a new ramp, and
Yeah.
put appropriate ordinances and signage in place so that people
Yes.
aren't swimming at the end of the ramp, but we can do that separately.
I second that motion.
Okay.
So you're talking about, since I'm not voting on this.
But you can
you're-
still discuss it.
You're talking about
Discuss it.
closing, not allowing swimming at the end of the ramp, and so it's going to be closed as a swimming hole, but only be used for boats to launch.
Let's discuss that some more later.
Well, safety, because we don't have any beach there, and when we start allowing swimming, then I think we set ourselves up for liability that if somebody gets run over in a boat, they have a boating accident, which will inevitably happen.
You can't have both.
No, I agree. So I thought we had done that before. I thought we had a clear ordinance in effect now that said
I think you do.
you're not supposed to be swimming. I think it's closed at dark.
It allows swimming, it does not allow boating or skiing from that access point, and it is closed at dark.
At dark. So, I mean, we can address that separately, but I want us to maintain access to the lake.
I say let's resolve the ramp.
Okay. Then my motion is that we're gonna have to. I mean, Jerry, we can modify it, but I think.
No, I'm not modifying it now.
I think the point is that we got to build a new ramp.
We have to, your motion is that we build a new ramp
Yes.
on the county property.
Yes.
I second that motion.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
This is easy.
Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 3-0.
You got a recusal form? Motion exactly?
The motion is to pursue building a new ramp in the legal county access.
And for the,
As far as the existing ramp, we're acknowledging the county has no ownership or no control over that property or the existing ramp.
That's
Part of
correct.
the motion, but that was part of the discussion.
We can't control basically anything we don't own. And to establish ownership would be very tough.
All right, we're going to move on. We've got one remaining item under general business, tab number 17. County Administrator?
Yes, tab number 17. This is, this agenda item requests board approval of the U.S. Treasury Restore Act planning.
Let's give them clear out, and then we'll.
Yeah, we'll take a minute. If anyone would like to leave during this time, you're welcome to stay and speak on the remaining items as well, but we'll give a little time to clear the room.
No, we got to go on. We got other business to do.
Now, I will say, if you didn't speak at the first Citizens to be Heard, you do have the opportunity, you can
Right.
speak again at Citizens to be Heard at the end of the meeting.
Or you can wait outside in the parking lot. We'll all be leaving here eventually.
Catch me outside.
She would. You weren't here earlier, right? I called your name, so guys, didn't I?
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, let's double back and let her.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do your little spiel?
Let's go ahead and take care of that, David. Miss Thomas,
Okay,
is that right?
I'm sorry.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Come on down.
Sarah had asked to come to the meeting under Citizens to be Heard. She wasn't here. I'm sure it wasn't her fault. Probably the bad
I
traffic.
got stuck behind a minor accident, but
Okay.
I think it had just happened, so there were lanes blocked.
She's with the Planning Council, just gonna kind of give us an update, I guess, on stuff.
So my name is Sarah Thomas, and I'm an emergency management planner at the Appalachia Regional Planning Council. And thank you for allowing me to speak, and special thanks to Randy Merritt, who is our chairman. So the Appalachia Regional Planning Council was created in 1977 as an association of representatives from the local governments to assist with the administration of certain federal and regional grants. We are owned by our member counties, which includes Wakulla County. The ARPC provides technical assistance in the areas of economic development, emergency planning, transportation, and environmental planning to meet the needs of our member local governments within our 9-county region. So just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that we work on, we did manage the economic grant that supported the Wakulla Environmental Institute. On July 1st, staff will begin coordinating the Transportation Disadvantage Program in Wakulla County. And we are currently preparing a proposal for GIS support for the Wakulla County Community Rating System Program. and the ARPC staffs the Big Bend Co-ed, which supported the first Wakulla County Disaster Preparedness Fair this past Saturday. We also have a revolving loan fund, which is available to small business owners. So basically, I just wanted to give you...
Let's touch some more on that, if we could.
Okay.
This is very important, the small loan fund. This is for people that can't otherwise qualify for a bank loan. I think I have to have Janice come and give a presentation on it. This has helped a lot of people in surrounding counties. The only person that's ever taken advantage of it here is a oyster farming group, startup group. I won't mention any names. But they have helped out several people, that especially people that have costs that are non-recurring. Like there's a Watson Pine Straw guy, I think in Bluntstown or something, and he borrows like $50,000 to make payroll because during the season there's been a couple daycares. There's been a little startup in Bluntstown, downtown Bluntstown, for a little boutique type shop. So this really, the ARPC is the designated group to give out federal economic development money. So, and we're really changing our focus towards that instead of, we should just take planning out of our name. I guess we don't do really anything with comp plans or stuff like that. It's economic development. And we're starting to get representatives there, or the people from their office, like Montford's people come, and who was it, Bill Nelson's people, and there was somebody, who's a new guy? Neil Dunn's people were there. Haven't got Halsey's people there yet. He's pretty anti-ARPC. But anyway, go ahead.
So, that was basically it. I just wanted to let you know, give you an idea of what we do, and just let you know that if you have any technical assistance needs or any questions about grant funding or anything like that, we're here for you. Just let us know. I'm making it a point to come to at least one of your meetings a month. So I'll be here if you have any questions or anything.
Do you have a card?
I do. I have plenty. I'll give them out at the end of the meeting. That way you guys can move on.
Or you can just call me, Jerry.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
No, don't call you. Thank you very much. All right, get back to item number 17, County Administrator.
Yes, this agenda item requests board approval of the U.S. Treasury Restore Act Planning Assistance Grant Award, approval of the agreement, number RDCG R240025-01-00. Approval for the chairman to sign the agreement.
Motion to approve.
And terminate the professional services.
Second with discussion.
Have a motion and a second. Any citizens on this one? Go ahead and start.
Mr. David, why are we changing?
Dewberry, Preble Rish, when we first procured this, it was with Dewberry prior to them acquiring Preble Rish, and Preble Rish is our primary engineer of record for the county, and under U.S. Treasury rules, if they do the rest of this, the MIAP, the multi-year implementation program, they cannot perform any work for us on the Restore Act side. So therefore, it limits us in the ability, because they are our primary engineer. So, and that's the reason. And we can write the multi-year implementation.
So basically, we don't have a contract with Dewberry.
We've got a contract with Dewberry right now.
But we want to
terminate that, yes.
And then who do we pick up of Dewberry's people? Or do we pick anybody back up of that association?
No.
So
they will do our engineering on a separate basis.
Preble Rish is somewhere else too.
That's right.
Who are we going to get to replace those?
We're going to do this in-house.
Okay. Who?
Do the multi-year implementation.
So we'll be hiring somebody to do that.
We'll hire an engineer. We're planning on hiring a young engineer that we'll also share with Public Works, because currently we don't have an engineer. And then there's an administrative assistant. There's Shree.
Yeah.
So that's the staff that we'll be hiring on.
I had this kind of a related question, I guess. The grant application itself says we're going to pay a consultant to do all this, but what they actually want to do is do it all in-house.
That's right.
Which is directly opposite of what the grant application says. But
Right.
you said you're going to come back.
We will be bringing that before you to amend that.
And they're okay with that. We're actually doing something different.
We got to take it before Treasury, but as of right now, this is the same thing that other counties have done.
Okay.
So we need to make our motion include that as contingent upon approval from the Treasury?
What do you say? You okay with that? Come up to the thing, please.
This is going to be an expansion of government just because you hardcore right people want to
No,
know.
I believe this
It's
is
going,
something-
if we're in-house means you hire people. So this is going to be expansion of government using grant funds.
It's going to save us money, though.
Well, it's still
Yeah.
expansion of government. Doesn't matter if it saves you $1 billion.
large amount of
Somebody's going to
capital,
complain.
Okay,
Yeah.
what we're gonna do is this is the plan.
Give us your name so the folks at home.
Cherie Keeler, Intergovernmental Affairs Director and Restore Act.
Thank you.
We have an approved planning grant with Dewberry in the planning grant to do the multi-year implementation plan. And it's about $350,000. So we have found from some of the other counties and that have completed their plans that, and even from Dewberry's consultant, who was Stella, who was working with them, is that the array of services that were initially thought were needed, all of them are not needed. And it's not an easy process, but it's not as complex as initially thought. So the plan is, if everyone here agrees with it, is that we would cancel the Dewberry contract, but we have to accept the planning grant first before I can amend it, because we don't want to start the whole planning grant process over. So it's easier to amend than get a new planning grant approved. So for me to be able to accept the planning grant in the system, I need for an approval tonight, and then that way I can accept the grant tomorrow and start negotiating with the Treasury on how we're going to restructure the grant. And it's called a reduced budget. And the reason why is because y'all know you're not going to pay me $350,000 to write this plan. But that's how much money we initially set aside. So, but I will need some assistance, and I think that's come before the board before, and it's been discussed, and there has been an agreement that to implement the Restore Act, I will need some assistance to help me with that, because there's a lot of meetings, a lot of documentation, a lot of paperwork to meet those Treasury needs.
So basically, we were paying Dewberry whatever, a certain number of dollars, and now we're going to use less of those dollars and do it in-house.
And my salary for the hours that I document working on the multi-year plan is reimbursable from those Restore Act dollars. And then from an engineering standpoint, with the multi-year plan and all the project applications that we put in thereafter, there is engineering work, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a PE that's going to sign and seal plans. That's what we have Dewberry Preble Rish can assist with that. But we do need somebody internally, and it will be less expensive to hire an entry-level PE who has their degree in civil engineering.
Entry-level PE or just an engineer?
It can be an engineer.
Big difference.
I know.
Yeah.
They have they've graduated in civil engineering, and they can either have experience or they can gain experience in
You
this
had
position.
3 of them in the room earlier, and the money was just
Right.
everywhere.
A professional engineer is going to cost you a lot more money. So if
Oh,
we
yeah.
look at a civil engineer
Like an attorney.
who wants to come in and do mapping, do conceptual plans, not like conceptual plans for getting permits, but at least lay out the drawings and everything instead of me trying to hand draw. Y'all don't really want to see that.
You want somebody with AutoCAD experience.
Well, and this
Draft-
also is the same formula we'll use for, even though the Gulf Consortium and the Triumph dollars, they're managed a little differently, but still, it permeates over into what we'll be doing there as well. So it's not just a $13 million pocket of money. This is 13 plus 12 plus 3 million times 15, whatever that is. So it permeates into a much larger area that we'll be going
So
after
if we
money.
can get an engineer on board, and I can tell you now from my experience the last 5 years in writing grants, it is very difficult to do grants a lot of times without an engineer or civil, someone with a degree in civil engineering to do the mapping and the sketches. And we have been very, very fortunate that we've had a lot of our engineering companies who volunteer their time, but at the magnitude that I feel that, and David feels that we're getting ready to expand with Restore Act and Triumph and Water Management District, we need somebody internally to help with those things.
Are you going to try to get some capital money for computers or whatever you're gonna need for this
Yeah, we'll be
mapping
looking,
and
we're gonna look at all of
plotters
that,
and all
as
that
well
stuff.
as this
And that's,
person
a lot
could...
of that can be reimbursable from the Restore Act so that we don't have to go into our general fund.
I met a very good man the other night. His name is Brown. His daddy is Surveyor Brown. He just got his civil engineering degree.
Yeah, he's actually working at Hydra, but one of the things that we will be doing is this also person, we will set up the program that Randy, that you, Commissioner Merritt, that you've been talking about the
Public Works Director?
inspecting for as construction inspection. This person will also do
I
that.
thought that Elizabeth was gonna do that.
Well, it will, but we're going to transition that into this.
Can you cover the cost of the personnel with the amount of money that we're getting from the grants?
Not fully. No, sir. No, sir. That'll have to be, the grant will probably cover 30 to 40% of that, that work. The other part is, as I said, that's going to come from the other funds within Public Works, is where that funding, because currently we don't have an engineer on staff.
So is it a major reduction between the 350,000?
It will be, because it's probably half, and that's a very conservative estimate, because you can only reimburse, I have to document my time, and the engineer, if I have an assistant, somebody who's helping me set up meetings, their time, and we have to carefully document that, and we can get reimbursed dollar for dollar, including benefits. Even if I go to St. Mark's or wherever and I take a county truck, we can get reimbursed for the mileage on that. So there are some things like that, but unless I'm doing it, and I know I'm not going to be doing it 100% of the time, because I do have other job duties, but for the amount of time that I do spend, as long as there's an open grant, we can recoup those charges.
Right. Well, and I know a big point that Dewberry made when they gave us the presentation is we need to shoot for a 3-to-1 return on our money. So, you know, as long as we can achieve that, as long as we can use that money to leverage and get, you know, more than a 1-to-1 return, I think it pays for itself. And so,
no doubt about it. This is a large infusion of capital that we got to make sure we manage well.
Yeah.
Well, if I can keep that 100,000 in the budget, that million in the budget this year, I kind of, you know, done some things there too.
Your motion was to approve. Did we ever get a second?
Gary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we had no citizens, correct? Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, that ends our general business. We have no public hearings. We'll go into planning and zoning. No, planning and zoning was pulled. Tab number 13. We have no commissioner agenda items. County attorney.
Nothing tonight.
County administrator.
Only thing I've got is last week we had a Magnolia and Wakulla Gardens a meeting of the folks that are going to be tied into the first phases of the sewer project. It was attended very well. Very pleased at that. So we've got a good kickoff there. Construction has actually started on the force main work, so that work is in progress. Other than that, that is it, Mr. Chairman.
You want to brag a little bit about Cherie before she leaves out of here in our legislative
Oh,
program?
yes, I almost forgot. Cherie, come back, please. Glad you caught that. Yes, I don't know if anyone has seen the press release, but the county brought in about $6.4 million in state funds, as long as the governor does not veto it, which $500,000 of that will go towards the construction of the firehouse. Another $600,000 will go towards the future purchase of our slurry system. We've got a multitude of roads that were put on our scrap and scop. Really a banner year for the county, and we've had those since Cherie's been here. But also, I'd like to thank the chairman. He worked tirelessly at the Capitol, speaking on behalf of the county, speaking on behalf of the small county.
She armed me well. I just went to battle.
And also the Small County Coalition as the president of the Small County Coalition. And where that's important is it no matter whether he's speaking for Gulf County or whether he's speaking for Clay County or Wakulla, he's still seen as Wakulla County presenting. And that's huge. That means a lot to our county. So you add the combination of Cherie pulling her strings and that's preparing the table She prepares the table, and then the board, you guys, you help us, you pull that together. Then the chairman, he actually made it all happen up there. And
Is that Montford or Halsey?
And Montford and Halsey, they did. Go ahead.
It was in their appropriation they asked for?
Yes, we've
Discretionary?
been, right, this year, and it's the way that we have things structured, I believe, that makes us so successful administratively, is because y'all approve the legislative agenda, and once you do that, you have given staff, David and I, the authority to move and do what we need to do, so that, like a lot of counties, we're not hamstrung having to come back every single meeting. We're able to pursue the money where it is and put everything in. And so with as fast as the legislative session goes, they need answers now, and they'll call, what are your priorities? Well, we can't wait, and you've already done that, so we can say these are our priorities. And this year, because it was narrowed down to those two, the slur system and the fire EMS station, we were able to get half of the funding we requested just for those two. But I can tell you, Senator Mumford and Representative Beshears fight for their counties, and they love Wakulla County. So every year since they've been in office, and Chairman Thomas has been here, we have brought money into this county. 2 years ago it was the boat ramp. There's always scrap and scop, and this year it's slurs and the fire station. And we have people calling the governor's office now, so hopefully it won't get
Good job, guys.
And it's health and safety. And she'll underestimate what she does, but she puts together a battle plan that makes it easy, and they like it. The senator and the representative, they like it. Makes it easy for them to go to battle. I think General Mad Dog is going to probably try to hire her because she can put together those battle plans. And so
I have had a couple, but I'm still here. I've a couple offers, but I'm still here.
We do appreciate what you
Thank
do.
you, and
you
I
make it a
appreciate
lot
all of
easier.
y'all. It's a team.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Let's see, where are we at? Citizens to be heard, number 2. Nothing there. Discussion items, Commissioner Hess.
Okay. I have a
Is that
little...
okay again?
I did.
Randy, you have no room to talk.
That's for sure,
Okay.
Randy.
Okay.
Tonight I want to talk about the community rating system. Basically, we talked about some issues on it the other night. And, for the public out there, the community rating system of the National Flood Insurance Program rewards communities that undertake floodplain and watershed management activities that exceed the basic minimum requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. The CRS system emphasizes and encourages communities to a community-centered approach to prepare for the hazards of flooding, focusing on protection of the natural functions of a community's flood-prone lands. Does it work?
I want to skip the presentation. Dadgummit.
Well,
Is it on up top?
I don't know.
It's on. Right.
Which button?
Right.
Right?
It should be, yeah.
Okay. Currently, our community rating system, we have we're considered a Class 7, and for each point you get in the community rating system, you can move up, and we have a 15% discount under the 7 rating on all our flood insurance that occurs in the county. What that means, this one, that's right. What that means, if you're talking about, it really affects development, especially the development in the special flood hazard area. In the special flood hazard area, if you want to get $100,000 of coverage for a new house built in construction zone A, built to current code, it's going to cost you $1,299 a year. If you have an existing house that's $100,000 worth of coverage, it's going to cost you, if it's built at 5 feet below base flood elevation, it's going to cost you $7,204 a year. This is really impacting development in all the special flood hazard areas, because these, if you're going to get a mortgage in these areas, you've got to have flood insurance. Many homeowners have a lot of varying prices for their flood insurance because a lot of rates are grandfathered in, but your CRS applies to any flood insurance rate you have, and for most homeowners it's quite significant. The more points the county earns, the higher the flood insurance discounts. Less money paid for flood insurance means more money for these families. Current rating, if you look at our current rating, it's really hard to see on there. You can see each category under the CRS system and how many points we got. And there's 1,811 points. But what I want to call your attention to are the ones that I highlighted in red. And there's 4 of them. There's open space protection. That's how much area the county is open and not being used in development. There's 2,000 points on the table for open space protection. We got 75.
That's what you're working on with the Regional Planning Council, right? To try to do some mapping maybe to get some more of those points.
Correct.
Okay. Higher regulatory standards.
Chuck, excuse me, does that include, that doesn't include forest?
Yeah. Well, I'll go through the whole thing. I've already done all the GIS mapping here, so you'll see the whole thing here. So, higher regulatory standards, there's 2,000 points available. We got 670. Acquisition and relocation and flood protection are both areas where we missed all the points. The problem with those is if we talk about those 2 on the right, the acquisition and relocation and the flood protection, if we set up a program for that, it has to be paid for by the citizens of the county. So I was more focused on the open space preservation and the higher regulatory standards, because we can put those in place only in the special flood hazard area, so that the people that are getting the benefit, okay, getting the benefit of these regulations are paying the whatever cost is associated. Passing reasonable regulations can make our community less vulnerable to damage from tropical storms and significantly reduce insurance premiums for our citizens. Number 1, in our higher regulatory standards, prevent fill within the special flood hazard area. This adds 280 points to our CRS system. Use of fill to elevate buildings is desirable by developers. However, it reduces floodplain storage capacity, has the adverse impact on native vegetation, wetlands, drainage, and water quality. And the reduces floodplain storage capacity transfers flood impacts to your neighbors. Requiring 3 foot of freeboard in the SFHA.
Which is what Leon County does.
Right. That adds 500 points to our CRS system. A freeboard requirement adds height above the base flood elevation. It accounts for during storm events, the waves and debris don't hit it. And also protects your insurance from rates in case the flood maps are changed again and the base flood elevation increases. So those are areas of opportunity in higher regulatory standards. In open space preservation, there's a lot of points on the table. The first thing we have to do is GIS map the protected areas within the special flood hazard area. So I'm having done a graduate program that I involved GIS mapping a little bit. I was familiar with some of the things it could do. And every acre we preserve within the special flood hazard area adds to the points received by the county in the CRS system. So I originally thought we'd have a lot of opportunity, but if you look at what we have in the county, the dark brown black color, that's our special flood hazard area. It's 250,000 acres. So we look at it and we think this is we can't handle this. There's nothing we can do. Well, the interesting thing is if we in Wakulla County, because federal land doesn't count, we can take all the federal land off the system. So all those areas that are in the special flood hazard area can be that are on federal land just get dropped right off. And so we only have to deal with the 59,607 acres of Wakulla County.
What about state lands?
I'm going to get to those. Okay. 59,607 acres of Wakulla County that's not federal lands. Of those 59,000, 3,351 are on state lands. Now, if we can get an agreement, a letter from the state lands people that says that there will be no fill and no impervious surface placed in those 3,000 acres, we can get points for them. It's against the 1,450 points that are available for public, protecting lands, so we can get 81 points for that. That's not a lot. But if we buffer wetlands within the SFHA,
I hate that word.
man, we were with you too. Well, look at what I did here. Okay, I buffered the wetlands. Okay, what this map shows you, only those areas in the green that are in the dark color are the ones we get credit for in the SFHA. But if we buffer wetlands in the SFHA to only two activities, to fill and impervious and putting down impervious surfaces, those are the only two activities we wouldn't allow. And we can make sure that the buffer cannot be allowed to prevent reasonable use of the parcel. So I went through and did that. Okay, I didn't do it, but somebody did it. Basically, and if it didn't have enough land outside of the buffer to build a house, according to our standard, our comp plan, it was kicked out. It was excluded. And I excluded most properties that already had a house, unless it had a house on a large acreage tract and the house was visible outside the buffer. If we do that, it looks like that. You can't really see the red against the gray, but that's what it is. And it ends up with 28,226 acres, which gives us 686 points under the CRS system. So we also can get points for land that we have in agriculture or RR5, which is one house per 5 acres. But it's on a much lower scale. So for those acres, we only get points off the 300 point scale. And so we can get 101 points for the lands we have in agriculture and RR5. Combined, these items take our rating from a 7 up to a 4. And our total points is 3,460. With the additions that Scott Nelson's has made to our emergency response system and making us a safe community, I'm quite confident we can actually get over 3,500 points and move into a Category 3. But just moving to a Category 4 takes that insurance rate for those houses inside the special flood hazard area from $12.99 a year to $252 a year. And the one built 5 feet below base flood elevation goes from $7,204 to $5,933. So there's a significant savings to our citizens if we do this. To do this, to protect our tax base, our citizens, and reduce the insurance cost as a means to provide more disposable income to our citizens, we can direct staff to develop a policy for no fill in our special flood hazard areas, add an additional 3 foot of freeboard, policy to prevent fill and impervious surfaces within specified areas, and include GIS mapping, and include the GIS maps provided as an additional way to get points. This is what we can do to make, one of the questions we had during the campaign was somebody asked, what can we do to improve our CRS, our flood insurance rates? And at the meeting, all the people on the board, on the podium up there, we all missed it. We didn't talk about this, okay? This is a way to get those people and take the development that we want to occur in these areas and start to make it affordable.
Quite an ingenious way to bring back up the wetlands order. Got a hand.
Very good. Question about the no-fill. So, for example, someone needs to build 1 foot above base flood elevation. Okay? Well, you proposed a 3 foot freeboard. So,
3 foot freeboard.
so let me use that example. So let's say they're 6 inches below base flood elevation, so they need to build 3 feet above. So basically 3.5 feet above grade. So are you proposing no fill on that lot, and they're going to have 3.5 foot piers? It's real easy to see this at 15 feet above, but if it's
At 15 feet above, it's really, it's a no-brainer to do it, okay? The problem is that's where it's just a little bit off.
right.
But understand, now, if you get a Loma, okay, this only covers any property inside the special flood hazard area.
Right.
If you're outside the special flood hazard area,
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Data's
Okay.
got to be there to get a Loma, though. I mean, it's not something you can just apply for and get, obviously.
Right.
Exactly.
You have to prove that you're actually not.
You got to prove you're actually there.
With survey
Okay.
data.
I'm just saying that.
And there's only
okay.
one person that's done that in recent years that I know of.
Actually, I did it.
Yeah.
So.
Edwin Brown does them all the time.
I mean, as a result of the changes to the flood map changes prior to. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I've done Lomas as well. But, so in that case, you wouldn't be able to bring in 3.5 feet of fill. You'd have to have piers or concrete
It depends on how you define fill. Are you talking about the dirt you put inside the stem wall foundation to pour a slab on it, or are you talking about fill on the ground?
As I understand it, when you prohibit fill in the special flood hazard area, that would also prohibit the use of backfilling your stem wall with
No
fill
go on that
dirt.
one for me.
That'd be hard.
Especially not with a 3 foot of freeboard. Tallahassee, Leon County has that. Interestingly enough, Leon County has it. If you're in the city, they don't have it. So you don't have to have a flood letter in the city, but if you live in the county, you got to build your house 3 feet above flood zone. It's ridiculous. I mean, right across the street, they got to be 3 feet higher than you. I understand the freeboard thing, and we had talked about this at one time about doing it on elevated piling houses to have 1 foot of freeboard if it would get some sort of credit. So
You only get credit if it's, it's across the board in the special flood hazard area.
I understand.
You can get credit for only allowing the stem wall, but it reduces your credit, your overall credit on the whole.
And I really appreciate your efforts, Chuck. This kind of educates a lot of people on how it is done. But I don't think I could. Number 4 is what we're working on right now, trying to capture those areas. It's been a while since I messed with this. I couldn't remember the exact math, but I think you're right. It really doesn't add up to that much. And again, I do appreciate it, but I wouldn't personally go for any number 1, 2, or 3 at this point. Not saying I'll lie to you.
Well, I'm just pointing out that the additional freeboard, if you do it just the freeboard, without the fill, it gives you 375 points. And
What
so
does 1 foot get you?
Not much.
Okay.
Well, and I think it's, make sure the folks at home are listening. So what we're talking about on this 3 foot freeboard, that's not just 3 foot if you're building in the wetlands, it's 3 foot if you're building in a flood zone. So you could be completely outside of the wetlands and you're no harm or no impact to the wetlands, but you could still be in a flood zone.
Right.
It's a factor of safety.
Yeah.
And
It's a safety factor. What you're trying to do is you're trying to prevent the kind of damage we had when Debbie came in.
And in fact, in Leon County, even if you're in an X zone, if there's a lake or a creek, that's on somebody else's property, and your entire property is not in the flood zone, you still got to be 3 feet above what that's going to flood at.
And this is only for the people in the special flood hazard area, only for that limited number. And what you're getting most of your acreage, when you look at it, when you're getting most of your acreage, let's go backwards. You're getting most of your acreage for your wetlands buffer over in that forestry land west of us, which, that's where most of that wetland buffer really impacts the land. And while we're not saying you can't do lots of activities there, you just can't put fill or impervious surfaces.
How does that apply to commercial?
It doesn't apply to any parcel that's, basically, if it's municipal lands. I didn't put any municipal lands inside the map, and I didn't put it on any parcel that already had a building if they didn't have plenty of room outside of that.
How would it affect 319?
It wouldn't affect 319 at all.
Good stuff.
So fill would impact dirt or gravel roads, though. Driveways, if you needed to haul in a truckload of gravel or dirt, that would be fill.
Yes.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be just to build the foundation and the stem wall.
But you could also, there's another way you can do fill, is that you can take out, you can do compensatory, so you take out the dirt elsewhere, and put it back. That you can get points that way.
So if you're building
Great
a long
presentation.
driveway, you'd have to build it 3 foot. You'd have to.
No, it has nothing to do with the driveway you built.
Your house may be 3 foot off the ground, but you can't build a driveway to get to it because you can't put fill in there.
Or you can,
Right?
you can build the driveway.
What I'm hearing.
You just-
Chris?
No. Well, no, if your house is 3 foot off the ground, but you're inside the special flood hazard area, and we're only allowing it, not only in the buffer zone would you not be able to put it impervious surface. So you could be outside the special flood hazard area, inside the special flood hazard area, but outside the buffer, and you could pave that road as going through as long as you dug it down to pave it.
But, well, my house, for example, my entire lot is in the flood zone. So I wouldn't
No
be able
driveway
to,
for you,
I
right?
wouldn't be able to bring in any gravel, any dirt in my driveway.
But you could take the dirt out and replace it with paving.
You couldn't have the house you have today.
Right.
Unless it was on pilots.
Being a big
Those
impact.
are on pilots.
And
Good
I
presentation.
wasn't in a flood zone before they changed the maps a couple years ago.
Well, but that's the problem. They keep changing the maps. And your house now would be exempt from that.
Right, but my next door neighbor couldn't build a driveway in the same area.
No.
Not without taking everything out and
Taking it
bringing it
somewhere
back
else.
to the same level.
He can go dig a pond in the wetlands and use that dirt for his driveway.
Go by feral cats.
This is just a great way to save insurance costs.
Exactly right.
For our citizens in the county, and it's one of the things you need to consider when if you want to really do that and take advantage of the CRS system. This is how we can.
I'll
do
agree
it.
with everything Chuck said except the great part. I think it is a way to save insurance for the citizens. You're exactly right.
Well, someone's gonna pay for it. Someone's gonna be impacted, and someone's gonna be benefited.
It is a
with
way.
Right.
Everything we do.
But the people that are impacted are the ones that are benefited in this system. So.
Excellent.
Very good presentation.
Very good presentation.
Anything further?
That's it.
We were talking about how much Ralph contributed to the county. Ralph and Randy. Randy is with the CRTPA, and anything to do with our roads and that sort of money.
Except the intersection of high school.
Randy's at the top of the list. Randy's at the top of the list, and so I think basically we got two of the best people in the state working for this county. That I don't think any other county has two people who work harder than Ralph and Randy. I had someone in Shell Point when we built the marina over there. It sort of increased the traffic a little bit, and the residents of the village at one time used to go behind the fence and be able to go down to the beach. They didn't have to get out on the road. Well, the people who own inside the fence have now closed it off. So they're having to get out on the highway with the boats and so forth. And I was asked if there was any way that we could possibly help them with a sidewalk. Just a question.
To the beach?
Yes.
From the road to the beach?
Yes. From probably at the real estate office to pick up the village.
Oh, you're talking about a sidewalk down that road. That is in our plan, yes.
They can't drive a boat down it.
They can't drive I don't know if they'll be able to drive a boat down
Well, they don't want to, they just want to, since the person inside the fence has closed off their track, they would just like to have a sidewalk so they don't have to walk on the road.
They're just walking,
fine, but
not driving golf cart or boat or anything.
No, this is just walking. This is
We actually have in part of our long-term planning, and we got a lot of these areas to do, but that is one of them.
Just standard mobility plan.
Is to put a sidewalk, all the way to, it'd run all the way to the last road on the left, right there by the volunteer fire department.
That'd be a good one.
starting at the volunteer
That's right,
maybe
that's
and
right.
going around the curve at the...
Yes, right.
That may be a good project to submit under the CRTPA's mobility
Yeah,
plan
you're
next
right.
cycle
Very
around.
well
That'd be
maybe.
excellent, and I guarantee you everybody up there vote for it.
Okay, wonderful.
There you
Guarantee
go.
it.
There you go.
They love us. Love us.
I'd like to make an announcement if you guys did not see. Today, we did a pushing in ceremony for engine number 12 at the fire station, and we need to thank the citizens of Wakulla County for passing the 1-cent sales tax. That's, what, $400,000 fire engine that was bought from that money. We've already spoke tonight that we're planning on building a new firehouse, and so that will be a great facility for that.
Did you actually push it in or then crank it up and drove it?
Pushed it in.
Okay.
Yeah, a bunch of
We
them.
also approved a lot of funding for resurfacing of high roads tonight.
Yep, absolutely. But I just wanted to thank the citizens for seeing the wisdom and the vision in that, and our community's certainly going to benefit from that. And also thank our fire EMS team, fire rescue, for the work that they do. And so, you know, I think we're recognizing, we're doing everything we can between the slurs, the firehouse, the engines, recent ambulance that was purchased. You know, that all benefits our community, and we thank the citizens for passing that. And so, good job. Thank you.
I want to thank the two of you too. We're all kissing up here.
Man,
but
we've talked enough about me. I can tell you.
I want to make it clear that Jerry, you know, threw me and Chuck under the bus. So obviously, we don't do anything. So I appreciate that, Jerry.
No, I did not mean that. I did
Win
not
for
mean
losing.
that.
That's all I had.
Three things. Number one, I had talked to a woman today about next time we have our scrap or SCOP, let's look at Aaron Road because of the school buses. It's kind of a narrow road, and apparently there's a lot of rutting on the shoulders along there. And if there's a way we can use some of that money it needs to be widened out a bit, like I said, you know, running off the shoulders and gutting it out, especially on the school buses.
Okay.
Everybody loves school kids.
Mike,
Shadeville Road needs to be
I
our
did
new
not mean
standard.
that, Mike.
Pave everything like Shadeville Road from now on. That was a good job.
Number two, the Tallahassee Builders Association had their parade of homes here recently, where they have all the houses ranging from $200,000 to $2 million houses in a contest. The overall best of show winner was Southern Construction in Mallard Pond. It beat out houses, $1 million homes. Aaron won the thing. Can you believe that?
Nope.
He won best price, best home below 250, and he won best to show. Beat everybody in Tallahassee.
Wow.
Nice.
So that's good for our
That
county.
is incredible. For
He actually won 3 awards. I can't remember what the other one was. And last, I'd like to thank Susan Jones for coming to the meeting tonight. She gets very embarrassed when people call her name out, so she's very brave of her to come. Thanks, Susie. And that's all I got.
She shows up at a lot of places.
Oh, the Lake Ellen issue was over. She
Yeah,
can go home, but
she loves
stuck around.
controversy.
Rush to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Is it okay, Susan?
Embarrassing at all.
She's already talking bad about you on Facebook.
I'm going to pencil you in for that donation, Susan.
Thank you.